Right, welcome back to the Women's Business Center here at the Urban League as we continue our journey around 21 days of inspiring stories. It's been a wonderful December for us as we reflect back on 2020 and spend some time with women business owners and leaders who have made this the best year yet for themselves, for their families, and for everyone really as we listen and learn what's made them great and what's taken them around along the journey to being who they are today. And so the person I have today is Kacie Story. I've known Kacie probably about 12 years, and her story has taken her on a journey from politics to still serving in a different format today. And so, Kacie, without further ado, if you could take time out to share with us what your pathway has been, that would be great.
Awesome. Well, ladies, I'm just so grateful to be part of these 21 days of inspiring stories. And I just applaud the work that you guys are doing at the Women's Business Center, because truly I am part of that work. I'm a product of all of you all's hard work. And, you know, it's so interesting when people ask, how did I get started in entrepreneurship? And I think my story is perhaps maybe a bit different from many other entrepreneurs. I found myself in a situation where I had no other choice but to really sink or to swim. I found myself really being faced with going to prison. I thought that I was actually going to have to go to prison. As Tasha, as you talked about, I started off my career in politics in the city of St. Louis, really at the height of things politically, made history as the first African-American woman to hold elected office, the youngest elected office in the city of St. Louis, did a lot of great things, but privately, I was really struggling and found myself really embezzling campaign funds. And really had like just kind of really a spiritual epiphany where I decided that I was going to admit that what I was doing, which was illegal, and I knew that I could very well face jail time. I was able to, you know, by the grace of God, not have to go to prison, but I found myself with not having a job. I lost my job, and really my name was tarnished. You know, people, they privately talked about, well, we really like you. We really respect all the work that you've done in the community, but no one wanted to hire me. And so I really found myself with my back up against the wall and just really crying out to God, like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to provide for myself? God, how are we going to do this? And God reminded me about this gift of sewing, which is something that I looked upon as just really a hobby. I've always liked fashion. I've always liked to create clothes. My grandmother was a seamstress. My great-grandmother was a seamstress. And sewing was just something that I did in my own personal time. But it was really that day crying out to God and considering, you know, working at Walgreens or working at the local pizza company. Like these were real things that I was considering. And God was like, hey, don't forget, you know, that I've given you this gift of sewing and you can use this as a business. So fast forward 6 years later, I am the owner of a custom clothing boutique called Such a Lady Online Boutique, where I provide custom clothing for customers and clients, you know, all over the United States. I also operate a sewing school where I teach other women who are kind of up in age. I teach adults and children, but really primarily I love teaching women who find themselves kind of in the midst of a career change, in the midst of trying to find themselves. And I teach them how to sew. And really, it's more than just sewing. I've come to understand that as I teach the women how to sew, they're really learning a lot about their competence. They're learning about being an entrepreneur, being able to make things, especially in the midst of this pandemic. So that's how I got into entrepreneurship. And I hope that my story today encourages someone who maybe didn't have like a sexy entrance to entrepreneurship. Maybe you found yourself like, hey, what do I do? How am I going to provide for myself? And God has highlighted the path of entrepreneurship for you.
I feel like that story is so like just, it touches on
like self-forgiveness, moving beyond the challenges and the downfalls that you faced, and also just like really resonates with people who have been picking themselves up this year. I mean, this feels like a scrappy year in a lot of ways, and I feel like a lot of people would resonate with you with that. How would you talk to people who maybe they're starting off their business or just kind of brainstorming on what can I do this year?
There was a sermon that I heard by a woman. Her name is Pam Dillon, and her husband, they have a church. And she began to just preach or proclaim from the pulpit, what is it that you have in your hands that can make you money? What is it that you can do? And, she was like, some of you guys can bake. Some of you guys feed everybody. What is it that you can make? Can you make soap? Can you make this? What is it that you can do to bring in income for yourself and for your family? And, that's really the question that I ask anybody who's watching this video. What is it that you can do to bring in income for your family? I think for a long time, I just looked at sewing as a hobby. Like, nobody will pay me to do this. This is just something that I like to do. And I really devalued the gift and the skill and the artistry. But you're right, this pandemic has really brought forth an awakening of, well, how can I make money, being from my home or, with the economy crashing all around? What is it in my hands that I can do to bring in income? And so I just want to confirm, and I just want to encourage to someone that, the gifts that God is giving you, those are gifts, and those gifts can be materialized into extra income for yourself. It's not just something for you to devalue or say, oh, it's not that big of a deal. But no, there's greatness. There's gifts and talents that God has given all of us. And it's just important for us to realize and tap into it.
And Beverly touched on something that I think is absolutely amazing about you. It's this spirit of self-forgiveness. So you were able to take a step back and think about what you were doing at that time in your life that was right, wrong, indifferent, and remotivate yourself and rebrand yourself to be who you are today. What was that journey like, and what advice would you give to others who may find themselves struggling with forgiving themselves and then recreating a better you?
So I will say that it's a process. And I stepped down from serving as an alderwoman in the city of St. Louis in 2013. And so that's been about 6 or 7 years ago. And there is still a process. There are still moments where, shame tries to rise up. And I have to say, wait a second, God has forgiven me. And so, I forgive myself. And so therapy has helped out a lot. A great church family, a great church community that has rallied and supported me. So I would be lying to say that, there haven't been moments where, I have condemned myself or, been upset at myself for the mistakes that I have made. But it boils down to this. Am I going to sink, or am I going to swim? And I chose to swim. I really believe, I'm also a pastor, and I really believe that, one of the things that the enemy, Satan, wants to do is always accuse us and make us feel bad, like, we'll never get ahead in life because of our mistakes. But I believe that I serve a God who is gracious, who loves us, who has a great plan for us. And, he was like, Kacie, I've forgiven you. And so now it's time for you to forgive yourself. So there are times where I have to remind myself of that. And, just keep going. Can
you share with us what it feels like to have support in the home on that journey?
Yeah. So, having support, it matters so much. And, I want to say that when I went through, Grace Hill, when I went through the 16-week, business course, I was in the process of really being upset. I knew that the doors had closed for me to get a traditional job, the jobs that I thought that I wanted. And so I found myself, okay, well, I need to look into becoming an entrepreneur. And, there was embarrassment, there was shame. I was kind of like an unwilling entrepreneur in the beginning. And but I had a mentor, her name was Leisha Reeves, and I would just meet with her, you know, and so she helped out so much with just like really speaking life and really helping me see how, you know, my business idea could be successful. And then I had a loving husband and a loving mom who encouraged me, who brought my products, who helped me, you know, with vendor fairs and, you know, just really supported me. I had a friend who, you know, sewed into my business by buying fabric, because again, sometimes as entrepreneurs, you have a runway, you know, but I didn't have a job to help me have this runway. So I had a lot of friends that really supported me, that really wanted to see my business be successful. And then last but not least, y'all, I had a lot of prayer. A lot of people who, you know, maybe they didn't want to learn how to sew, maybe they weren't interested in a custom outfit, but they prayed for me, and you know, they helped me. They helped share, you know, a post on Facebook about a sewing class or about a product. So they helped introduce me to their network. So having the support of people, you know, is so important, and I'm so grateful.
How would you say your spirituality leads you in your business on a daily?
Oh, 100%. So I mentioned earlier that I really didn't want to go into entrepreneurship. I wanted a 9-to-5 job. To me, that was easy. I would have a stable paycheck, and you know, I could just live how I always lived. But the idea of becoming an entrepreneur, it meant that I had to trust God. I had to trust God. I felt like I was an okay seamstress at the time. But for me to make clothes for other people, I had to trust that God would increase and enhance my ability to be able to sew. He would give me the deals with vendors to be able to buy the fabric. So really, it's been a journey of trusting God, and my relationship with him has gotten so much greater. But it was literally me and him in a prayer room where I said, okay, it seems like every door has closed. I have reached out to contacts to get a job, but every door has closed. But the only door that seems to be open is this sewing door. So God, I give this to you. I give this gift to you. Now you do what it is that you want to do with it. And Chelsea, I will say that, you know, the idea behind sewing, it's so much more than that. You know, God has given me a dream to help women who are coming out of prison, to teach them how to sew, so that they can provide for themselves. It's become so much bigger than just an online boutique of me sitting behind my machine, but really being able to share my story to help others who kind of come from, you know, difficult experiences and find themselves in entrepreneurship, to just let them know, hey, you can do it. God has a plan for your life.
Now, do you think, well, have you ever considered like maybe going into the prisons and teaching classes there? Has that ever been something like thought about?
It has. And a couple of years ago, I submitted a proposal to the Missouri Department of Corrections about doing a program inside of the prisons, teaching the women how to sew. Unfortunately, at that time, the warden felt that it would be a security risk with some of the tools and instruments with sewing. And at that time, they denied it. But you know, I don't believe that that is over. Now, the Missouri Department of Corrections, they do have vocational tech, where some of the women, they already know how to sew. And so they're around sewing tools all the time. But I just believe that, you know, God isn't done with that aspect yet, that there will be an opportunity perhaps in the future to be able to teach women how to sew inside of the prison, and then also to help prepare them when they come out of prison as well.
That's awesome.
Good. All right, perfect. Kacie, I had a question for you. So I know starting a business it has its challenges, especially in the beginning. So can you maybe talk about some of those challenges you had with starting your business, and what advice you would give to other entrepreneurs who are just now starting their business?
I think the biggest piece of advice is to not be afraid to pivot. You know, when I started the Weibo course, I really had a product, not necessarily a business. And the product was this 18 by 22 piece of cloth with lace around that perimeter. And I called those lap scarves. And I would sell them to women at church for modesty, to kind of cover their knees when they sat in elevated positions and they wore a skirt. So I started off with a product, and it was in the Weibo class that they were like, well, this really isn't a business. This is just a product. And so, you know, that kind of helped open up my eyes to, okay, well, what else can I sew? What will be the theme and the types of things that I could sew? So, you know, not being defensive when somebody says, hey, that idea doesn't really work. You might want to think about it a little bit more. So that is another suggestion, and not being afraid to pivot and to get advice. What I'm doing right now, I had no idea that I would do. I never thought that I would have a sewing school. And in the pandemic, through the sewing school and making masks, it has accounted for like over 70% of my income right now. So right now, people aren't necessarily buying custom clothes, but they want to know how to sew for themselves. And so that's been the focus of my business right now, teaching people how to sew.
That's cool. I should have paid attention in class more, but I guess I can just come to you.
Yes, Chelsea, come on, girl. I'll teach you how to sew. They start my class not knowing how to turn on a sewing machine, and 5 weeks later, they finish with a garment.
It's incredible.
It gives me such hope.
Yes, it's never too late, too.
Awesome. Well, it is time for our enlightenment round. We're going to ask you a series of questions. Nothing too crazy, nothing too dull. Okay?
All righty.
Toilet paper, over or under?
Look, whatever is easier for me to put on in the middle of the night. I would say under.
Alrighty. And what is a great book that you have recently read?
I'm reading actually 2 Peter in the Bible. And that book is, I've read the Bible a couple of times, but like just really sitting and just really going through and really like thinking about what I'm reading about, 2 Peter has been a great book to read.
What would you say is your favorite local small business?
There are so many. It's kind of funny. Like I think one of my favorite local small businesses. Now I got my hair in locks. I got them recently done during the pandemic, but before I wore my hair in locks and natural, I wore extensions. And so my friend has a business. It's called Sew St. Louis Salon. And so she does hair extensions. And I love her story of how she started her business. So my favorite small business is Sew STL Salon, because it's my friend's business. And she's a great woman of faith, and she's doing such a great job. And she provides great customer service. So that's my favorite small business right now.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that one. What is on your nightstand currently?
So I honestly don't have a nightstand. The nightstand is on my husband's side of the bed. But I'm using kind of the ottoman as my nightstand. I had foot surgery a couple of days ago. So what's on the ottoman, AKA my nightstand, is a water bottle, phone charger, Bible, and notepad.
Kacie, what do you tell yourself is inspiration when things get tough?
You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. I filled out this grant application recently, and there were just so many pieces of the puzzle where I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And TD Jakes preached a sermon, and he was just like, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. And I just started saying that. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. So that's what I say to myself. And that's what I'm saying to an entrepreneur. And you're like, I don't know if I could do it, but I'm telling you, you can do it.
Oh, I love that. It's just simple, but like really.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, shifting gears a little bit. Who is your celebrity crush?
Who is my celebrity crush? Okay, my husband's in the next room, so hopefully he can't hear me. But I'm gonna say Michael Ealy.
Oh,
The eyes.
a good one.
Yeah. He always plays kind of a crazy character though, like a mysterious, like thriller kind of crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's easy on the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So which MJ is best, Michael Jackson or Michael Jordan?
I'm gonna say Michael Jordan. I watched The Last Dance, and even though he kind of seems kind of like a jerk a little bit, but I would give him his props. He's very great at basketball.
All right. And if you had a choice, $1 million in your account tomorrow or $1,000 each week for the rest of your life?
I'm going to go with $1,000 each week for the rest of my life. I love like good news. I love like sometimes I just check my inbox because I'm like, oh, maybe I got just a good news, like a good note or something. I just love that. So the idea of receiving $1,000 every week, that's like a little gift. So now I don't know how much, like you could tell I'm not really much of a mathematician, because a mathematician would really try to calculate to see which one is the most.
That's what I was just doing in my head. That's so funny.
You would try to do that, but numbers are not really my thing. Tasha, you could probably calculate it and know what is best, but I'm gonna go with 1,000 a week because I like to receive gifts.
Okay, LA or New York City?
LA.
Oh, that's quick.
Give me sunshine. Give me sunshine, sun, palm trees. Yes. I'm look, yes. LA.
So that brings me to my next question. Do you prefer sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Me too.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I love getting up early. I like to spend that time with God and just journaling and seeing the sun come up. That is very calming and soothing for me. So definitely sunrise.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey today and being an inspiration to me over the years, but also being an inspiration to others as you continue to find new ways to continue to rebrand yourself, reinvent yourself, and you're doing all with a greater power behind you. So I know that anything you touch moving forward is going to be successful, and I appreciate your partnership.
Thank you, guys. Thanks so much for all that you are doing for women in the St. Louis region. It matters. It's important. And so you all just be encouraged and continue to just be diligent in your work.
Thank you. Well, happy holidays to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.